Welcome back to Entertainment Extra with yours truly, Joe Crawford, here on RemicTV.com. And joining me in the studio here in person is poet, author, artist, and life success consultant with Bob Proctor. But we have not Bob Proctor, but the one and only Laura Johnson Lane. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you very much, Joe.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. Well, first of all, we're going to break it all down. First of all, let's start with poetry. Okay? You're a poet. What got you into poetry?
I started writing poetry when I was a teenager.
Okay.
And as I went through different life experiences, then I was just called to, just felt that urge to write things down. Found that I'm inspired a lot by nature in the last 10 years or so.
Nice.
So a lot of my poetry is about nature.
Now, talking about nature, you've been around of like living in different countries, like or continents or different types of countries. So a lot of different types of nature you've been around. What other places other than Canada that you lived in?
I lived in England, in the Channel Islands, on a little island off the coast of France called Jersey. Wow. It's the original Jersey that New Jersey is named after.
Ah, all right.
So I was there for 2 years.
Did you see a snooki back then?
Jersey is a terrific island, just full of beaches.
Right.
So it was a really cool place to hang out as a teenager. I also lived for 1.5 years in California as a missionary, and then when I came back to Canada, I lived in Victoria for 3 years, in Montreal for 1 year, Edmonton for 4 years, and I've been back in Ontario for about 8 years now.
Okay, so a lot of different nature sceneries and scenarios.
Diversity.
Beautiful. Yeah. So no wonder then that has sparked the poetry in you then. And any of your poems available for anyone to read, or?
There are a few places online that they can be found. I did have one poem published in Edmonton in the Songs of the Street Poetry Contest. They published a little booklet.
Nice.
And then my one poem has been created into an ebook.
Right. Well, I had you on my radio show,
right,
and we talked about that. What's because Jeanette Tassunian was the author, or not the author, sorry, the illustrator. The illustrator. Thank you for the poems. Or for that story, and what is that poem called?
It's called I Am the Wind.
I Am the Wind, and that can be purchased?
Yes, it's available at smashwords.com.
Okay.
And then you look up Laura Lane or I Am the Wind.
Okay, all right, awesome. Now, was it hard for maybe, say, Jeanette to say, I know she's not here and you probably can't speak on her behalf, but maybe you can, but this is the first time that your poem was put to pictures, no?
Right, right.
So was it hard to have it illustrated for that? Because usually a picture's worth 1,000 words, but you're doing 1,000 words kind of to a picture almost.
Well, what happened with the poem is very visual. I am the wind pushing you along, ever present, whispering in your ear. I make the wind chime sing. I make the candle flicker. I helped you sail across the seas. I push your help you sail across the sea, push your and glide across the skies. And so every line of the poem is extremely visual and very relatable to adults, to children. If you remember that feeling as a kid being pushed down the road by the wind.
Yeah, I feel like Mary Poppins.
Yeah, feeling hearing the rustling of the leaves as the wind pushed them along. So the images of a candle flickering, the porch swing swaying, all of those things just created strong images. So then Jeanette and I sat down and talked about it when she did Sailing Across the Sea. I said, I want this really multicultural, and so the one image is of an Oriental junk,
right? And
it's a gorgeous picture. We've got we've got a couple sitting on a porch swing, a candle on a table. The feeling of when you've got that cold chill that goes through you when the wind blows through all your layers in the winter time. So we've got some children playing and making a snowman. You know, just how that cold gets right into you.
Yeah, especially in Canada.
Oh yeah. Then the idea of the wind howling at night And so she created a cemetery and a lone tree that has lost its leaves, and just that whole creepy feeling of that woman howling.
Nice.
So there's just a lot of strong images in the poem, so it was very easy for Jeanette and I to just discuss and say, this is what I see, and she can, I see it too, and then she drew them beautifully.
Nice. And that's smashwords.com. Look up I Am the Wind or Laura Lane, okay, Lauralane, just in case, because there's different ways nowadays to spell different names and everything else like that. Now, along with writing poetry, you write stories as well, like you're not?
What I've done is I took the first poem, I Am the Wind. That was the first one I wrote.
Right.
And then I wrote another one, I Am the Waves, I Am the Earth, and I am the light, to represent fire. So they represent the 4 elements. And then I took those 4 poems and I created a story that ties all 4 of them together.
Oh, nice.
And it's about a little boy and his grandfather. And his grandfather says to him, Conlon, I need to take you and introduce you to someone special today. And he's like, Granddad, you live out in the middle of nowhere. How can you introduce me? And then they travel. They go out into the bush, and he said, well, are we going to fish? Are we going to do all these? No, 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 shh, I'm going to introduce you to someone. And he says, I want you to sit down and listen. And then he said, just listen very quietly, close your eyes. And then the wind starts to speak to him and says, I am the wind, and introduces himself.
Oh, neat.
And then he takes them over to the shore of the little pond or lake that they have on their property. And he listens to, he said, the wind is going to call another friend for you. And the wind makes the waves start lapping on the shoreline. And as the shoreline, as those waves crash, he then hears the waves introduce themselves. And then he hears the sound of the earth when he puts the child in a tree, and he hears all the scurrying noises of squirrels and all the noises of the forest, and all of a sudden he hears the voice of the forest speaking to him and saying, I am the earth. And then they sit by the fire, and the fire crackles, and he gets that introduction. He hears the voice of the fire speaking to him, saying, I am the light.
Nice.
And at the same time, it's teaching him a little bit about the native traditions of how you need all of this in your life, and how the wind carries your prayers up on the eagle's wing. And it's just that whole introduction to those ideas.
Oh, beautiful. Now, where can that book be
It's a work in progress.
Oh, work in progress. So not completely yet. Okay, not complete yet.
It's going through it. We're just editing it now.
Right.
And I've started sharing it at schools.
Yeah.
But I don't have it. I don't have a hard copy.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully we'll be looking for that for sure. And you must be. I gotta say, you gotta be a great mom, because you got all these fun bedtime stories to tell at night or whatever. And well, you're a jack of all trades, or I should say, jackess of all trades, because writing poems, writing stories. Now you're drawing your own pictures and becoming an artist. Now this is a very touching story because a little bit of a sad story, but it has a happy ending at the end, of course. But how you decided to create a montage of pictures, 24 I think to be exact, correct? Right. And first of all, if you want to, hopefully you can share the story of how these 24 pieces of art came to life. Well, in almost exactly a year ago, the end of February last year, my daughter was diagnosed with brain cancer, pineoblastoma, and she had to undergo 30 rounds. She had 2 surgeries, brain surgeries, and then 30 rounds of radiation, and then 3 full months of chemo at Sick Kids in Toronto. Wow. And while she was there, it was a very intense time. I was living at Ronald McDonald house, and late at night, I would spend 24 hours with her, and then 24 hours off, while her stepmom would spend 24 hours with her. If you don't mind me asking, how old? She's she was 12 when she was diagnosed. She's now 13. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I would spend 24 hours. Sometimes I would be there for a couple of days at a time. Right. And then I'd go back to Ronald McDonald's house to recharge my batteries and just sleep. Well, very stressful and strains you out. Oh, so. Yeah. And when you're there, you're not really sleeping because there's so much getting up in the middle of the night and beepers and nurses coming in and out. So I go back and crash and take that time for myself at Ronald McDonald house. But I don't watch TV. Right.
So I'm just not a TV person. And I'm like, I need to do something with my evenings.
Now, just before you continue on, for some people who don't know, what is Ronald McDonald House?
Ronald McDonald House is a charity that McDonald's, the restaurant chain, created to help families whose children are at hospital, or children who need to travel to a local hospital and need to spend some time, and so the family needs to stay somewhere while their child is in the hospital.
So they provide that?
Yeah, so they provide this wonderful home. It's like having your own hotel room and then a communal area for a kitchen, craft areas. They have schooling so that if you've got other kids you need to bring with you while your child's in the hospital.
Wow.
Some children need to, if Celeste had to do her radiation at Sick Kids, we would stay at Ronald McDonald's House. She'd go over to Sick House, spend her hour doing radiation, and then stay the rest of the day at Ronald McDonald's House until the next day.
Okay.
And so they would need to be schooled.
Right, because you want to keep them up to date. Okay, nice.
So they offer all of this there.
Beautiful. Okay, so now back to the story. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wondering what Ronald McDonald was. So you don't watch TV, so hopefully you watch the computer and watch RemicTV.com.
Oh, yeah. Well, I do a lot on the computer, but you still sometimes you need a break. You need a bit of variety.
Right. So okay, you don't watch. You're not watching TV at Ronald McDonald House.
So I noticed they had a craft room for the kids, but the programs for the kids, of course, would end at 9 o'clock, and I'm like, well, nobody at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, nobody's using this room. I'm like, so I asked the staff there, I said, can I go in there late at night when nobody's using it? And they're like, I don't see why not. Nobody had ever asked before.
Right.
So I got my own canvases and my own paints, and I would take them down to the craft room at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. I would put the canvases out on the table, and I would paint, and then I would carefully take each wet painting back up to my room.
Yeah.
And then display them around my room so that they could dry.
Nice.
And then just had something pretty, and I would take photographs of them, and then on my cell phone, and then the next day go back to the hospital and say, Celeste, look what Mommy did.
Aww.
And she's like, oh, that's really cool. So after I made the first set of 4 or 5 paintings, I was able to go home to Niagara and took them home to show my husband. And he said, these are great. He said, next time when you go to paint some more, can you use these particular colors? He asked me to do some paintings with black, red, gold, and silver. And I said, okay, sure, because my paintings are abstract.
Right.
And Impressionism. And so he chose the colors, and when I went to paint, it was like, this is really cool. He chose the colors, and then I did whatever I was inspired by those colors.
Right.
And then I took pictures, went back to the hospital, and said, Celeste, look what Mommy did again. And she said, that's great. And I said, you choose 4 colors. So then she chose 4 colors.
Oh, nice.
And the next time I painted,
Now, what 4 colors did she choose?
She chose purple, blue, green, and silver.
Oh, okay, nice.
And then, so then I showed them to her. And then Haley, who's another little girl with the same diagnosis as my daughter, they were diagnosed 1 month apart.
Wow.
And they're the same age, and they have the same diagnosis.
Holy cow.
So Haley was in the hospital doing her chemo at the same time that Celeste was doing hers.
Right.
But Haley's down in New Jersey, and she had her treatments at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, or CHOP.
Right.
So then I emailed her mom and Haley. The girls would Skype sometimes or talk on the phone. And I emailed them and said, I've been painting, look at my paintings. And they're like, those are awesome. And I said, well, Haley, choose 4 colors. So she chose 4 colors.
Oh, wow.
And she chose purple, pink, yellow, and blue.
Nice.
And so then I did a bunch of paintings for her as well.
Beautiful.
And then, of course, I had to ask my other children.
Yeah.
And they then chose their colors. But what happened was Celeste got out of the hospital. I'm like, oh.
Now what do we do?
I don't have a craft room anymore. So,
now what do we do?
So in December, I painted some more for my children,
Nice.
for my other kids, because I have 4 kids.
Tell the husband, I'm coming home. You need to build me a craft room.
Right.
So, okay, so we have all these photos now. There's a total of 24 altogether. Right. And where are they being stored right now?
Right now, well, in November, I spoke to a gallery in Thorold, Ontario,
right,
and had them displayed for the month of December. We did an exhibit. We called the exhibit 2 Girls, 1 Prayer.
Okay.
Because it's really about Celeste and Haley and the journey that they've been on. And so it went from Thorold in December And then in January, it was in Font Hill at the library. They have a public space there.
Nice.
And we hung them there for the whole month of January. And the beginning of February now, they're now being exhibited in Jeanette Tissinian's gallery in St. Catharines.
Okay, now where's the traveling after this? Because you have... well, first of all, where can we see the pictures, or other than at Jeanette's studio in St. Catharines?
There are images online that can be seen. There are 2 different places. On Facebook, they can be seen at Facebook page Laura Lane, author, poet, artist.
Okay.
Or I have a website which is lauralane.artistwebsite.com.
Okay, and they can be all seen there. Now, are they available to be bought, or what's happening with the rest of after this month's at Jeanette's?
Okay, for the month of March, I'll be finding another gallery. It hasn't been booked yet.
Right.
In April, we're looking. Mary Friesland has a brand new art and bookshop that she's opening up in Ridgeway in Ontario. So we're looking at exhibiting them there for April. I'm looking for another venue for May. Ideally Niagara on the Lake, because it would be beautiful to be there in Niagara on the Lake in May. And then in June, I'll also be looking for somewhere in Hamilton, Ontario, because that's where I grew up.
Right.
And then by the summertime, we're going to move them to Toronto and auction the originals off. Prints can be bought from the website at any time, but if people want the originals, they'll need to come to the auction. And that auction is going to raise funds for Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto, Ronald McDonald House, and Haley's family down in New Jersey.
Beautiful. No, that's just amazing. It's called 2 Girls, 1 Prayer. And go to the websites. We'll have them on our little blog for this video where they can be seen, and where they're probably going to be traveling next. You'll probably have it on your website too, right? Okay. Now, we've covered 3 of the things. We have one more thing to cover here. Like I said, you're a jackass of all trades. Life Success Consultant with Bob Proctor. First of all, who's Bob Proctor?
Bob Proctor is... Fortunately, here in Canada, he's from Toronto. He is the personal growth and development guru of today. He's been in the industry for 50 years now, and he's an incredible man. And he has been teaching these programs to help people to find the value within them, find success, and figure out what it is that's holding them back, to understand the paradigms and how our mind works and how that stops us from reaching our potential, and then how to overcome that, and not just how to set goals, but how to actually achieve the goals.
Okay, awesome. Now, for some of us who don't know, probably like me, for example, what is a paradigm?
Okay, when you first need to understand how your mind works.
Okay, so let's go with that then. I'm a little afraid if we're going to dissect my mind, but let's find out what happens. Okay.
Well, so I want you to first imagine imagine your mind. When I say that, it's a trick question because most people don't have an image for their mind.
Right.
They have an image for their brain.
Right.
But a brain is not your mind. A brain is a part of your body. You can take the brain out and put it in a jar.
Right.
You can hold it in your hand.
Oh,
but the mind is not the same.
Okay.
The mind is different. The mind is a part of all of us. The mind is in your fingernail. It's in your whole body. It's part of us. So we need to understand how the mind works and what it is. We need an image.
Right.
So I'd like you to imagine a big circle, a stick man,
right,
and then a small circle for the body.
Okay, hang on. So we're going to get a paper here. I got a piece of paper and we got a pen, and we'll have you draw this here, and then I'll have you you at home there on your computer here to see this. We're going to have this diagram too on the website, but I want to show you. So now fill in everything that needs to be filled in. And then I will go right up to the camera there and to see. Now, right now, what she's drawing is a big circle with a stick with a small circle that looks like kind of like the sun. So let's see if we can get that right there. We got the big circle attached with the small circle with some sticks on the end, and then there's some results. And let's see what the results are. Okay.
Okay.
So
the man who came up with this this image here,
right,
his name is Thurman Fleet. He was a chiropractor in the 1930s. And what he did was he assigned to the top here the conscious mind, the bottom half the subconscious mind, and then your body here is your actions.
Okay.
So the first thing you need to do is you need to think of something, you need to internalize it, and then you act it out.
So does that work with the same way with thinking before you speak?
Yes.
Okay, because that's what I do not do all the time. Okay.
Well, then what happens is we need to understand, okay, our conscious mind, that's our thinking mind. That's our ability to take in the things in our surroundings, process them, and decide whether we're going to internalize it or not. So I like to give the example that if I told you that George Bush was the smartest president of the United States,
right,
you could then make a decision whether you believe it or not.
Right.
You have the ability to accept that idea or reject it.
I reject that idea.
So when we have that ability, but then our subconscious mind is different. Anything that we internalize into our subconscious mind, we accept as truth. Right. Now, if I told you to close your eyes and visualize your favorite meal, right, and start thinking about that meal, whether it's a steak, whether it's a juicy peach,
spaghetti and meatballs.
If you close your eyes and start to imagine that, you will start to salivate.
Oh, okay.
You actually start to believe that you're eating it. Your body will physically respond. But I didn't give you anything to eat.
Right, right.
But your imagination and your subconscious mind is able it will believe it is truth.
Okay.
Okay? So that's the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the thinking mind. Subconscious mind is our emotional mind.
Okay.
The Greeks called it the heart of hearts. And what happens is we internalize truths into that subconscious mind. Now, when we're a child, we're open and we believe everything that is told to us. Our subconscious mind is completely open. And if you told a child that money is evil, that they are stupid and can't do anything, they internalize it and really start to believe it.
Right.
And so those are our paradigms. Those are the truths that we've internalized that aren't necessarily true.
Okay. So, all right then. Right. So then with the bottom circle then, with the results, how does that work out then?
Well, we act on the things that we know to be true. Okay. So
that was with the help of the subconscious mind, right? Okay.
So if you take our body acts like a cybernetic mechanism. Right. It's like autopilot on an airplane or a thermostat. Yeah. If you set it to 72 degrees and all of a sudden the heat starts to drop in the room, then the furnace will kick on and you go back up to that 72. Now, if the room starts to heat up, then the air conditioning will come on and bring it back down to 72. Right. Okay. So we have within us that settings of what we believe we can do. So you take a student who gets C's or D's in school, and you make them work really, really hard, and they get maybe a B or an A on one test, but they don't believe that they're an A or B student. So what happens? They'll go right back down to getting C's and D's, because that's where they believe they are.
Now, is it too late then? Like, that's a good example then for using for a student then. Say we tend, they work hard and hard and hard, and they have in their set of frame of mind that they're a B or a C student. Can that be changed around?
Yes, it can. We have that ability to create a new image and internalize new truths. It takes more effort, right? Because of course these ideas, these paradigms have been in there for a while, but you need to you're going to make room and sort of push those old ideas out, and you'll need to start changing a lot of habits, because what happens is you believe you're a C or D student, you act like a C or D student, so you have the habits of a C or D student. So you will need to create new habits and new ideas and implant those and internalize and emotionalize them and really start to believe it.
Wow,
and then you can change it and see new results in your life.
That's pretty cool. So it can happen then, and that's what the Life Success Consultant is all about then.
So Bob has created these programs to teach people how to change their paradigms, and that's everything from winner's image to creating a new image of yourself, to the success puzzle, the goal achiever, you were born rich program, the mission and commission. He created all these programs in the last 20, 30 years. And he has taught life success consultants to go out and help him teach these programs to people and coach them through it. Because I could sell you a program, good chance it might sit on your shelf.
Exactly, yeah.
So what I do is I then help people to work through the program and help them
nice.
remain accountable.
Right.
Because that's what we need. When we're setting those goals, we need to be accountable to someone and to help us, give us a boost when we're struggling, and in order to make those changes. So the Winner's Image program is an excellent example. It's a 90-day program, and so I follow up with my clients every month, every week.
Right.
We spend half an hour to an hour, follow up on the work that they're doing, the goals that they're setting, the visualization that they're doing, and I help keep them accountable over those 90 days so they can say the 90 days they've made that huge progress.
Nice, and a lot of success, right? I guess.
Yes, it's Bob put together an incredible program. It works really well, and it's wonderful to see how people change. I love to work with women specifically, and to see them, how they blossom and how their vision of themselves grows and how they grow into that.
Right. Wonder if I can do that for losing weight.
It works for everything.
Yeah.
For every goal that you might have in your life, you need to start seeing yourself the way that you want to be.
Okay, Laura Lane Johnson, a jackass of all trades, from poems to books to artist to now life success consultant. I want to thank you very much for being on the show. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. I wish you all the success, doing a good job of what you're doing, and keep it up. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but before we went to break, I said that March is National Poetry Month.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so I thought I had that fact just for you. And just before we go away, we have our word of the day, which is screed. And screed, you know what a screed is? S-C-R-E-E-D. It's a noun. It's an informal letter, account, or other piece of writing. So I thought, because you're an author and a poet, I figured that would be our word of the day too. So
that's great.
All right, thanks a lot, Laura. Greatly appreciate it. Keep on watching all our shows on RemicTV.com. For Entertainment Extra, I'm Joe Crawford.